I remember the day the voice began. It was quiet at first, soft as breath, lighter than memory. It wasn't the voice of reason or thought. It came from somewhere deeper, from a space I had never dared to enter. It said, "Listen to me." At that time, I was a man of science, confident, respected, full of certainty. But the voice in the silence tore that certainty apart. It wasn't madness, though many might have called it that. It was the beginning of my descent, a descent into meaning. I did not know then that I was about to meet my soul, and I did not expect her to be a woman. For years, I had devoted myself to the mind, to structure, theory, and analysis. But reason could not help me when my world split in two. Dreams began to overtake my days. Floods, blood, collapsing towers, visions of fire and ruin. The images terrified me. They spoke a language I did not understand, and yet somewhere inside I knew they were not lies. They were truths I had buried beneath intellect. Then I heard the whisper again, "You must descend." In the Red Book, I called this the spirit of the depths, the force that demanded I abandon the outer world and travel inward into the living psyche. Everything I had built, the theories, the pride, the identity, was a mask, and beneath that mask lived something ancient, alive, and feminine. To descend was to risk madness, but to refuse was to die slowly in the desert of the intellect. When she first appeared, she did not look like a muse or angel. She came in fragments, in symbols, in dreams, in the pulse of intuition, a presence just beyond the edges of thought. I called her my soul, but she was not mine. She had her own will, her own rhythm, her own voice. She laughed when I tried to reason with her. She spoke in paradoxes, riddles that confounded logic. "You have served the spirit of this time. Now you must serve the spirit of the depths." Those words shattered me. For the first time, I realized the mind that conquered the outer world was helpless before the inner one. That was the beginning of our dialogue, the long conversation with the woman who lived inside my soul. I resisted her at first. I told her I was a man of intellect, of reason. I sought truth. She replied, "Then unlearn everything." She told me that knowledge without feeling is a form of blindness, that logic without love is cruelty, that truth without soul becomes sterile. She represented everything our culture rejects: emotion, intuition, vulnerability, the irrational wisdom of the heart. And yet she was the only one who could lead me to wholeness. The soul reveals herself through dreams and experiences, I wrote. She is both enlightening and confusing. When I spoke to her, she did not answer in words. She answered in images: deserts, serpents, towers, stars. Each vision was a sentence, each symbol a conversation, each emotion a doorway. I began to write them down, page after page, in red ink and painted letters. Those who read it now may see myth or madness, but for me, it was dialogue between the mind and the heart, between the man I thought I was and the woman who lived within me. It was not analysis, it was relationship. She once told me, "You seek knowledge, but I offer wisdom." And I asked, "What is the difference?" She said, "Knowledge measures, but wisdom feels." I realized then I had spent my life measuring. I had dissected dreams, classified symbols, and forgotten that the soul is not an equation. For all my study of love, I had never surrendered to it. For all my talk of the psyche, I had never listened to it. She taught me that love is not emotion, it is an act of faith. It unites opposites and flows through both light and shadow. To love is to allow life to pass through you without control, without certainty, but with trust. One night, I dreamed of a vast desert. The sun burned without mercy. My lips cracked from thirst. I called out for God, for truth, for understanding. Then I heard her voice again. Be still. The wind ceased. The silence stretched like eternity. She said, You have looked for God in heaven. Now find him in the dust. That night, I understood. The divine does not live above, it lives within. And to meet it, one must kneel in the dust of one's own heart. True divinity is not in perfection, but in humility. It is not in transcendence, but in presence. The woman in my soul was both guide and mirror. When I looked into her, I saw everything I had denied, my longing, my fear, my tenderness, my weakness. But I also saw compassion, depth, and love. In loving her, I learned to love what I had rejected in myself. In listening to her, I rediscovered intuition, the quiet knowing that speaks before reason can argue. She told me, Your love will redeem you, not your logic. And I began to see, logic describes the world, but love transforms it. In a dream, I met her again, as a blind woman named Salome. She walked beside the prophet Elijah. I asked her, What can you see? She smiled and said, I see what you cannot. Then I understood. Intuition is the vision of the blind. It does not see with eyes, it feels with the heart. Salome loved me, though she was blind, and I feared her because she saw me more clearly than I saw myself. Through her blindness, I learned true vision. Through her love, I learned humility. Through her, I learned that love is not possession, it is not demand, it is courage, the courage to face the mirror of the soul and not turn away. When I faced her completely, I saw both light and darkness. She said, You cannot love the light if you hate the dark. And so I began the work of reconciliation, of shadow and spirit. Love, I realized, is not purity, it is wholeness. It is the joining of opposites within the heart. To love fully is to allow both the divine and the human to exist in the same breath. She told me, You must live what you learn. Only then will you understand. Each dream became a teacher, each symbol a friend, each emotion a messenger. Love and intuition are not escapes from reality, they deepen it. They connect us to what is alive, what is real, what cannot be measured by mind alone. They are the soul's language, and when we ignore them, life becomes noise without music. Years later, I realized she had not given me answers, she had given me relationship, not with her alone, but with life itself. Through her, I learned that love is trust, and intuition is connection. She said, Do not seek me in the heavens. I am the soil beneath your feet. That was her final lesson, that the sacred is not above or beyond us. It is here, in every breath, in every tear we choose to feel instead of flee. When I emerged from the depths, the world outside was unchanged, but I was not. Every human carries this dialogue within them, the eternal conversation between mind and mystery, between logic and love. That dialogue is the soul. That dialogue is intuition. It is the essence of what it means to be human. Now, when I sit in silence, I still hear her. Her voice is gentle, but it never leaves me. She reminds me that the soul is alive, and that love and intuition are the language of the divine. If you listen, truly listen, you will hear her too. She is your soul, she is your truth, and she has been waiting for you to remember her.